and batteries, all of those things, and catalytic converters, those things become more and more important. Like I say, the biggest gold deposit and the biggest platinum deposit in the world. Right, so I'm not going to bore you with all the different rock types, but we so move on all the way through the history now, from 4 billion years ago to the latest rocks being the Karoo in blue here, about 60 million years ago. And it's only in these rocks of about 60 million years of age and younger that we find fossils. Right, and if you move around Drakensberg, you might see in some of those sandstones, you see some plant and animals fossils in other parts in the country as well. And even if you walk around the Vaal River here outside, you might pick up pieces of the doxylin. The doxylin is petrified wood. Now that comes from the Karoo supergroup, where the river cuts through it, because there's nothing left here, nothing is remaining. Here where we are currently, the rocks were all weathered away, washed away. But where the river cuts through the Karoo supergroup rocks, some of those fossils of wood, of trees, are washed down in the river, and you can see they're a little bit rounded, but you pick them up everywhere along the river here, even in the field. Right, so that's some of the youngest rocks, the Karoo supergroup. Okay, let's talk a bit about the impact site specifically. And here, that is that summary of the geology of South Africa. Well, there's various publications and books on the Vredefort structure already that's available, and you'll see some of these pictures. This is Uwe Reimold and Roger Gibson's book. That I think, not this picture, but some of the previous ones. So here you can see the different rock types, but what's just amazing here is the fact that we cover the succession from the oldest rocks in the world right up to the youngest. If you go to Europe, you will see rocks in that age group only. You don't find older rocks there. So if a European comes here, they'll be amazed by seeing these old rocks. And the oldest rocks, apart from the greenstones that I spoke to you about, the greenstones, by the way, also contain gold, and it's been mined at Barberton, and currently Harmony Gold is mining it at Northwest there, Vryheid, Stella, what people see somewhere out there, they're also mining it. Kraaipan, thank you, Kraaipan Greenstone Belt, it's also been mined. The other rock that's just younger than the greenstones is the rocks that you are sitting on. These are the granites. I don't think this chimney is built of it. It looks like it's built of something else. But the beautiful rocks outside Stonehenge here on the river, the pink granite that you see, that is a very old rock, and it's Archean granites from the Kaapvaal Kraton. And it's really the pink rocks that you see protruding in this little map. Oldest rocks, because they're under all the other rocks. So we just see pieces of them. But here they're exposed right on surface. They should be about 40 kilometers below surface. So by seeing these rocks on surface is already very unique to people, because they were brought up to surface by the meteorite. The deposition of the Witwatersrand supergroup that contains the biggest gold deposit in the world, and we've been mining from Welkom to Northwest Klerksdorp, Johannesburg, East Rand, has been deposited over a period of 360 million years, people. So it's not like the river washed a bit of water and a bit of sand and some diamonds or gold into a basin. It took 360 million years, more or less, to deposit this thick thing. And the thickness is about 6 kilometers. And what's beautiful is as we move from the granites here where we're sitting now, as soon as you start going into the mountains, you'll start going into the Witwatersrand supergroup, and you'll be going through that succession of 6 kilometer thick sediments that were deposited in an inland lake or an inland sea, stretching from Klerksdorp all the way to the East Rand, Evander, all the way south to Welkom. Massive, massive inland sea that existed for 360 million years. Rain, water came in there. No animals, no plants. I worked for 15 years. We worked down there 6 kilometers, 5 kilometers. There's never any evidence of life there. There was also no free oxygen in the atmosphere, by the way. And I'll show you some samples this afternoon, or when we go out to the field, of pyrite and different sulfide minerals that is unoxidized. They're in their natural form, because they are coming from deep within the earth at a time where they were deposited when there were no free oxygen in the atmosphere. So from the Witwatersrand, the Bushveld complex, Bushveld Igneous complex from Northwest Province, from Rustenburg, all the way up to Polokwane, the eastern side, Leidenburg, Brits, those areas, the world's biggest igneous intrusion, not sedimentary anymore. In other words, it was lava that pushed out and deposited like a plate in different layers all these rock groups, one on top of the other. And that lasted for about 10 million years, and it's in places up to 9 kilometers thick that were deposited. Then the Karoo, and this is just some of them. The Karoo, like I say, the younger rocks, about 120 million years of different times, from ice, glacier times. Of glaciers, scratch marks, and rocks, specific rocks, we call them diamectites, that were deposited from melting ice caps. Up to dry seasons where there were like sand dunes, massive sand dunes, and all of that is evidence of that in the Vredefort structure here around us. And that's the thickness of the Karoo goes up to 120, up 12 kilometers. Right, let's just move closer to the Vredefort structure, and these are some of the first impressions, the old maps that people drew up for the area. And you can see they're all circular, at least they recognize the circular structure. Look at the dates there. This was probably all done on horseback and by foot. And up to more recent ones, there was a new one published in 1985, somewhere around there as well. But that's the one I'll show you later on today. But these are the old rocks. They all recognize a structure of different rock types being deposited, and then something pushed them open. They thought it was a volcanic activity. So if you go to Pilanesberg, you'll see a similar ring structure. But what's important there is it came from the bottom. Something pushed up the structures. So all the different rock layers are standing up straight, and lava and different igneous rocks came out of the earth. We thought that way here as well, while I was still studying. And there were such big fights that some of the guys actually left the university at that stage because they were fighting, and some were saying, no, this is a meteorite. And other guys were saying, you're crazy, it can't be a meteorite. It must be a volcano. How can you have such a big meteorite? And then eventually it was proven in about late 1980s, 1990, 92, somewhere there only. Most people in South Africa started to agree that it was a meteorite. And there might even be people around us today here in this room that still say, no, nonsense, it's not a meteorite. And it's not easy. I've got a master's degree in geology and environmental sciences, and it's not easy to argue these things because we understand so little about the earth, and it's so complex and so beautiful. But yeah, it was a ring structure. They all see the different rock layers, and they all open up to surface. So this was the first marketing attempt for the Vredefort structure, and it was a little access point just outside the town of Vredefort, 10 kilometers from Paris, where the Stadsklerk, what do you call him, the town council member or somebody, he put up that sign to say that is the Vredefort structure. So the difference is he was talking about a little outcrop of granite there, about the size of some of these you'll see outside in Stonehenge's property. They didn't realize that they didn't market the massive 300 kilometer meteorite impact structure, but at least they marketed it. And people would stop there, and they would visit the site, and they could use the toilet as well, I think. Alright, then came UNESCO and World Heritage Sites, and all the due respect and everything to people that are no longer with us even today, a lot of them, that had this initiative to push this site as a World Heritage Site for South Africa. And a lot of hard work has been done, and it was mainly to protect it, because at the time, like I said, I was involved with Anglo-American at that stage when I was studying, and then the mining companies wanted to mine it because there's gold, okay, and there's granite. You can see the blocks outside here from the old mining activities. Luckily, everything is stopped now. I still work for the mines. I do consulting to the mines, but I agree in where you can mine the minerals without disturbing the environment, do it, but don't disturb the environment. And I'm sure you guys will be able to get a lot more out of this structure, for example, than having 1 or 2 gold mines inside here. All right, so if you look at the different World Heritage Sites, South Africa was placed on the map then, and really initially to protect the site and to just make sure the mining companies get out of it. They were drilling at that stage in about 1990. There were probably 10 mining houses involved here. They had drill rigs in the field next to the river there, busy drilling, trying to determine the size of the resource that they can come and put up mines. And it was just in time when all that activity was stopped. But I must say I'm disappointed, because since that time, this beautiful structure stood here, and not a lot of people have had access to it, not a lot of people were informed about it, and I don't think things have happened as what I see overseas, other sites things are happening there to actually use it and to show people and to train people and teach people of the beauty, the content of it. So yeah, these are 1,154 World Heritage Sites globally. You can see Africa here a little bit behind. Not that there's something special in Europe, but it's just, they are so keen on finding stuff that I always say if there's a meteorite lying in the field, they would have found it, because there's just so many people. But imagine what the world could look like if we expose a lot of these other areas. All right, let's look at the larger structure. This is a Landsat image, so it's actually taken from a satellite. And it shows false colors because the colors are related to the temperature of rocks and water and the thicknesses of bushes and the reflections and so on. But we use it for exploration purposes. And if you look at this picture, you can see Johannesburg there. You can see the human activity, all the heat, the radiation that comes out around Johannesburg. The Vaal Dam also displays in red here with Van der Bijlvliet and Sasolburg, Potchefstroom, Carletonville and Fochville. And then I think you can clearly see Parys and Vredefort here in the middle of the structure. And this is beautiful. This is, like I said, the higher you go up really, the better you can see the structure. And even if you're flying at, how does these airplanes fly, 35,000 feet or something, about 10 kilometers, you can very clearly see the structure. Right, so the meteorite must have fallen in the middle there. I'm not going to go into the technical details. Remember all I say is the way we understand it. They've been doing this, physicists have been doing some studies on the size and the impact. We know the gravitational forces on the Earth and everything else. So they estimated there's a steel ball or a rock that was about 10 kilometers in diameter that hit Earth, just about 20 kilometers southwest from where we're sitting today, at 30,000 kilometers per hour. I haven't seen a taxi going that fast. 30,000 kilometers per hour, people. 30,000 kilometers per hour. So even if we're out by 10,000, doesn't matter. It's an enormous speed. And a steel ball of 10 kilometers in diameter hitting the Earth. So surely this must have had an effect on whatever animals and plants were on the Earth at that stage. Because now this is coming later. This was more recent. After all the other rocks were deposited, this only happened. This is, however, still the oldest and the largest meteorite impact site that we're aware of in the world. There's also arguments about others, but scientists will always argue, but it doesn't matter, it's very old. It's very, very old. It happened a long time ago. All right, so that was about where the meteorite fell. People say to me, is there something we can see there? It happened so long time ago that obviously there's nothing. There was ice ages following this incident, and water and everything, and rocks were moved away, so you won't necessarily see anything remaining there. That is about at the position of Inland Sea here in the Free State, like I say, 20 kilometers from us. So it's rather flat there today. You won't see a big hole there or something like Tshwaeng crater north of Pretoria, at Hammanskraal. Small crater, I think, what is it, about 1 kilometer in diameter. But you can visit it, you can stand on the rim of the crater and you can see the little hole, that you can see. This is difficult to comprehend because it's so big. That area we would consider as the crater floor. And that's the whole area. As you come from the N1, the R59, or from the R501 from Fochville, Carletonville, Potchefstroom side, as soon as you come through the mountains, you see this relatively flat area. That is all the granite that we're sitting on here now, and that is the crater rim basically. So that's rocks that were very deep in the earth. After the impact, it actually pushed up to surface and it's lying here. But it is not flat because a lot of weathering and erosion took place. So you will have these different hills like the one we're going to visit this afternoon opposite the road here. They weather in, we call it onion skin weathering. It's a granitic pluton. So across the world where you see granites, even in Polokwane, you can see those granites just northeast of Polokwane. They normally wear on these very nice round boulders. So you see these boulders on the inside. The one opposite the road is called the Leeuwkop, Lionhead. Right, so you've got different plutons left here, but that's just the way the granite weathers. And there's a bit of a bulge, and that one could perhaps call the Vredefort Dome, because that's a little bit of a bulge. If you look out here, it's not flat Free State, you see a little bit of a bulge. So people say, where's the dome? There's no dome really. The only dome you can talk about is if you go this 90-kilometer crater floor. It's definitely not a depression, so it forms a bit of a dome. But it's just because of the rebound of the rocks after the meteorite hit it. But I think if you look around this picture now, you just follow the structure, the circular shape, you will see that line over there, what they used to call the Witwatersrand or the Gatsrand, coming all the way south of Joburg, through Randfontein, Western area, Carletonville, to Potchefstroom. That follows the same arc, and that is really part of the same meteorite impact structure, people. And if you look at the rock types and the effect on the rocks, that's why we can say that is part of the structure. You don't only see the mountains. When you study the rocks under a microscope, you can see there's different changes and alterations to crystals and molecules and so on because of the impact. So that is the biggest structure. So it's even a much, much bigger area. But the listing initially was only for roughly an area that I indicate there on the map now. And duly so, right, also because that's the very nice area of highest mountains and a lot of vegetation with a river meandering through it. So that's the area just here to our northwest, bordering both provinces, Free State and Northwest. All right, so the World Heritage Site was listed. It was listed as a World Heritage Site. And to my knowledge, a management committee had to be established and a structural approach to running this whole site. I don't think that was done. I don't see a Vredefort Dome World Tourism Information Office like I see in other countries around the world, so that's why I'm saying I'm a little bit disappointed, because if you go to other places, there's beautiful centers, people visit there, the schools are coming by the bus because they can learn so much about the place. There were there was one attempt in Vredefort to build such a structure. I remember at the time there were talk of building a structure over the river because to satisfy both provinces almost, that you don't want to duplicate it in the different areas. I think we are far behind in that regard since listing it as a World Heritage Site. One of the ways of also protecting these type of sites is a geopark. So I was quite involved in the geopark initiative in Europe at some stage. And it's almost like an easier version of a World Heritage Site. So I just want to show you what happened in these geoparks, how people manage those. And if you look at the definitions there, it is they are looking at keeping the cultural and normal activities in this place going as normal. Even mining, some of those sites, they even allow mining, but then it's mining to a small scale and so that people can learn from it. It's not go in and try and take everything and run away. It would be a very small approach. Not that I say it would be good here. But they allow people to continue farming, to do whatever they want to do in the site, and they bring people in and they manage the whole site as one big entity. And people will be able to move around and visit different aspects and see different things of it. So yeah, there is at present 177 geoparks in 46 countries around the world. I just updated it quickly this morning. Because the last time I mentioned it was 127. So these things are growing at a rapid speed. All of a sudden there's a lot more of them. You probably won't be able to see this, but the majority of them is in Europe once again. And then also in the East, you find quite a lot of activities with the geoparks. The people visit them there just like we would go to a Kruger Park or something, a game park or a Golden City. People would go out the day, take their kids or friends and go and visit the geopark. And there would be all types of activities for them. And there's another illustration of the geoparks there. And this is just some pictures from a presentation or a conference I attended in Thailand, where you can see some of these geoparks. You drive around in a boat and you look at fossils in the sea. You stop different places and you look in the dolomites and younger rocks, and there's some fossils there. You see how people are cultivating rice in the rice fields. So it's a whole cultural experience from the different rocks, but it's all geoparks, so it's all based on the rocks. And the Vredefort structure, we must still remember that the uniqueness is really on the rock types here that we can see. All types of excursions, nicely illustrated. Even the baboons are reading it, they're studying it. So I'm sure you guys are here to figure out ways of promoting your province and the beautiful things in the province. And Yeah, what I just want to sort of mention is collaboration. I think such a huge site, one cannot go to one farm and look at it and say, this is the Vredefort Dome and try and market that. You can't have each owner of his property marketing his own thing. We'll have to have a bigger approach and say, what is important? What should we conserve and protect? Then what do we do there? What is this guy doing? He's doing this. Okay, he's weaving baskets. Let him continue that. People will stop there. What is this guy doing? What are those guys doing? This guy's got a tourism facility. But at the same time, remembering that it's in a sensitive area. We still hear the fish eagles outside here, luckily. I always get nervous when I hear them, and I thought, yeah, I hope I'll always hear them in the old day as well. There's still, you don't want to disturb nature. You don't want to mess up the river, really, because the river attracts a lot of tourism as well, a lot of river activities. And at the moment, there's not a lot of activities really even being used that the site can offer. It's all river rafting and this and that and the other that you find everywhere. There's so much more that you can do with this beautiful site. Yeah, as I mentioned, you've got these combined maps. You'll have a big map of the area that you're visiting, and then it's got different sites. So tour guides will take you around, or you can drive yourself. You don't even have to have tour guides there. People drive themselves to the next spot, and they get out of the car. There's information, there's booklets, they visit the place, the local people make a bit of money, there's employment, there's jobs, and everything else. Not only the rocks itself, people would say, rocks are boring. What do they do with the rocks? The fact that you get gold out of them, platinum out of them, the fossils, what we used in the past, like grinding stones, how people were mining those things in the rock. This is the Ries crater in Germany. A small meteorite impact crater, I think it's 21 kilometers in diameter. Very old, the whole town is built inside it. But once again, if you visit this place, you can just see how they've actually optimized on the tourism facilities there. People bring their produce to the market. There are nice markets and people buy their produce there. This church is actually built from the meteorite impact rocks. They've built this church from it. This is actually out of Israel. This is a totally different site. But once again, the rocks tell a story, because if you look at the different rocks, you say, but where do they come from? In Israel, these rocks don't belong there. This is granite. So the granite was sourced from very far away. Must have been brought there by ship through the Mediterranean. Same type of thing. Back to the Vredefort structure, you see some old pictures that I got hold of when I did my studies of mining sites when they were mining the granite in blocks like you see at the entrance to Stonehenge here. Different ways of mining. They use diamond wire cutting. They use chisel and hammer to actually break the rocks apart. Later on they used explosives, and they used expanding solutions like concrete to break them apart. You can see a lot of the blocks still lying around. And if you look at that specific site, that's what it looked like a few years ago when I did my studies there. So a lot of it remains, and if you can go back to the old pictures and explain to people, how do you pick up a 10-ton rock? How do you get that on trucks? And what do they do with it? There's so many buildings in South Africa at our Tambo. The new airport section, international, has been cladded with these rocks from the Vredefort structure, these granites that they were mining here. That's some receiver of revenue building in Pretoria that I took a picture of. Very classical, easily identifiable Parys granite that you see there. This is one of the quarries, the one we're going to visit this afternoon, and you can clearly see the nice mining that actually exposed the rock types, and we can now clearly see that black material there is from the meteorite when it actually impacted and melted the rock. So one can see it. So we don't want to just go and cover these things also. One must be so careful. I want rehabilitation to come in here, and the mining guys, the DMR or DME come in here, and they rehabilitate and they cover up all these sites. We won't be able to see this. Different buildings in Parys, correctional services, the post office, that's all been carved out of blocks of granite from this area. So yes, only that structure around the rim there that was really listed. And then moving away from the geology, if you look at Schoeman's Drift, that's about the other side from where we start, this side, that's about 70 to 80 kilometers away. The other side of the structure, where there's a little bridge across the river. And this old photograph that I still got from Johannes van der Merwe, the owner of, Tshwane, at that stage, where that clearly shows one of the first aerial photographs that were taken in South Africa. It still shows the position of the old pontoon ferry, after which Schoeman's Drift was named. The pontoon ferry was over there, and you can see the drift where people used to drive through with their wagons and stuff. And even if you do fishing there, you can actually see sometimes if the water is low enough, you can see the two lines. So that's quite interesting as opposed to what it looks like today. But once again, interesting things. I mean, these weirs were all built for agriculture. Even around Paracia, there's weirs in the river. And the whole history behind them and why they were built and how they were built and by whom is also very interesting. Then there's obviously a relationship between the geology people and the plants we get. And here you can see it clearly because you've got all these different rock types that I tried to highlight to you. And if you look carefully, you'll also find the different plants here. Because the rock weathers and it forms soil. And depending on the mother rock, the soil has got those nutrients, those elements in it, and certain types of plants enjoy those. And through millions of years, they actually are the ones that survive, and you find like massive areas of the same type of tree and grass field on specific types of rock. If you go to France, for example, the wine you drink, they've got a lot more publicity about the quality of the wine linked to the rock type. We're starting with that now. I see the Cape Winelands. But there it's so popular, people would visit the wine farm and the first thing they'll see is the rock type. They'll say this wine farm is built on granite, this is the A's, that's the little grains, that's the constituents, and therefore it's given us this soil, and in this part of the farm that wine tastes like this and this wine tastes like that because of the different rock types. Right, those are Suikerbos, Protea species on the left. They call it a resurrection plant. I don't know, I'm not a botanist, I don't know the scientific names for it, but it's a beautiful plant that looks like that on the left. Normally if you see it, but put it in a glass of water and the next morning it looks like this. That's why they call it the resurrection plant. They grow almost granite. There's nothing, there's no water. There might be a little bit of fog or mist in the morning that keep this thing alive. But only when there's rain and water it'll actually turn green. And on the right hand side, some special orchards, small little orchards that were discovered when they were looking at making the roads here and everything else around the Fairfield structure. Apparently quite a unique orchard. That is the wild olive, I almost said plantation. It wasn't planted by people. It's a natural wild olive forest. And if you consider how slow these things grow, you'll have a lot of respect for that. This is out of the garden of Gethsemane, Tuin van Eden, in Israel once again, but just to show you, these things are about 2,000, 3,000 years old. And you get some of the trees in here almost that looks like that as well. Alright, and then looking now not at World Heritage Site, but at meteorite impact sites. As I say, most people now agree that it was a meteorite impact site. There were around 174 last time I checked, meteorite impact sites around the world. And just by collaboration with different countries where these things are, you can actually see how they market them. And yeah, like I say, you can see in Europe and the Far East where a lot of the activities is around geotourism and people visiting World Heritage sites and so on. It's amazing what the people do there, what type of information they share and how many people visit there. There's thousands and thousands of people that visit those sites. This is a crater in Germany also, and they display very similar to what we could display here. How there's different layers of sand in a bowl, and then they just shoot it with a little ball, and it just shows. That's my reminder to do the presentation at 2 o'clock. Thank you. And it shows you actually the rock types and how it bent open because of the impact of the structure from space. And yeah, you find maps and there's displays and there's scientists. Those people are both doctors in geology, by the way. Marie-Louise Frey and other guys in come to me about that. They run these centers, so it's scientific. And it's a beautiful center, and they employ lots of people. I think last time I spoke to her, she had at this one site, the lady over there, she had like 4 graduate geologists that work on this one site. Another site wasn't even a meteorite impact site, it was a crater, a volcanic crater like Pilanesberg. And because of the rocks and the water inside this crater, through millions of years, we had deposition of mud and sand and stuff, but animals came to drink. And as animals came to drink, they fought there and they died and they fought in the mud, and they were actually preserved, and the mud covered them. And that is a very unique fossil record now that you can see there, and beautiful fossils. You can even see the color of the butterflies and some of the beetles on their wings still in that site. So a beautiful site that they've got there. So yeah, a lot of employment that is created there. Okay, in Africa we've got a lot of these craters. South Africa, quite a few. But by far the most impressive one is the Vredefort structure. One must understand that, as opposed to, like I say, the Twain crater that I've visited a few times, and even Setlagole, you can hardly see anything there. This is opened up. There's so much to see here. It's so much bigger. We've only got the World Heritage listed area as a small fraction of the biggest structure, and I think there's a lot of potential to display this to people. Yeah, then there's a whole history around mining. Mining created Johannesburg, eh? So it was important, and around the same time people discovered gold in these mountains, and there were over 100 little mines and adits that I visited in the site already. See Gustav sitting here, he was kindly assisting me, looking after our safety there with bees and porcupines and leopards still roaming here, we were always worried about. But yeah, we managed to identify a lot of these old mines and mining activities around the area, and the old timers mined. They mined gold around the same time as they moved between Kimberley diamond mines and Johannesburg. A lot of activity here. The whole town of Vredefort, Viljoenskroon, sorry, what is it? Vredefort, was started after this. And then the remains of some mining infrastructure is still visible. A lot of this was moved away because they battled to understand the geology here, and it was very structurally complicated. So a lot of this mining died away, I think luckily, and was moved to Johannesburg. So you'll find in Joburg, Marshalltown, you'll still find some of these stamp mills standing there. Some of those might have been in operation here. It's a wooden structure, so they wouldn't have really lasted through the decades. And like I say, they were brought in from Europe, all the way from the Cape, brought up here, and then I think they all ended up in Johannesburg. But that's the whole mining background of how they got the gold out of the ground is also very, very interesting. Yeah, and then on the I think the dangers that can affect the site, people, and that's where you can play a role, and that's so important in it, and it's sad to me to see still pollution like this happening. I took a walk yesterday afternoon with my daughter in Paris along the river, and we had to close our noses at some point again because this is still happening. And when my son go river rafting on the river, and all of these youngsters will know it, they sometimes drink their carbon pills before the time because they know as soon as you hit the water and some of the water happen to get inside you, you will get sick. So that's not good for tourism. People are moving away here. They say they don't fish for yellowfish or the fly fishing anymore because of the water conditions. It's dirty, it smells, you can see the foam in the water, you can see the debris coming down the river, so they go to Sterkfontein Dam or they go to the Orange. So we are losing tourism. Tourism companies I know that have packed up here and said, listen, sorry, we're off to the Orange. And this is, I think, not so difficult to prevent. Geovandalism. People come in here and they damage the rocks. At the moment, there's no proper control. People are selling some of these rocks worldwide, aside from the World Heritage Site. But it was supposed to be protected. Scientists like myself come and they draw holes in nice places, unfortunately, not around the corner here, but people can't see it, right in the center of a place that millions of people after us could still visit. Now they come and drill holes there to study the geology. And then there's a little bit of contamination as well, but this can also be fixed up. From the old gold mines, they used mercury and cyanide to get the gold, to extract the gold. We're still using cyanide today in the gold mines. Some of those slimes dams are still lying there, as in this case, you can see it's actually washing into the Vaal River. So those things should be cleaned up. They're radioactive as well, so you don't want people to scratch around there for too long. But these things should be well structured and managed and looked after. Once again, you don't want to take everything away because that's also a heritage that you want to look at. And then, yeah, these are holes where the mines, where they were digging. Because of the geology and the rocks standing up right now, not lying flat anymore from the impact, it means all the stopes and all the mining, it's like cheese in a sandwich that they had to mine out. Those things are vertical or close to vertical to surface. So you will walk in the bush and there will be a meter and a half wide hole going down for 50, 60 meters. And most of them are open. Then if something happened in the meantime, years ago we tried to motivate to get them closed. It's very, very dangerous. But once again, very interesting. There's leopards that sleep inside there. When there's people coming close, they will get away, but it's so interesting for people to visit these places. But people that know what they're doing, you shouldn't just allow anybody to go in there. There's gases that can build up there, methane gases, so you don't want bad publicity of people dying in these mines either. And then, just scientific, like I said, there's a lot of scientific groups coming to the site, perhaps even unknown to us or you guys in the tourism industry from across the world. They come in here, they have their local contacts through universities, they come in, they do research, they get out again. People don't really get the information back, we don't monitor it, we don't check what they're doing. And there's new technology also. This was from also Israel, where they're doing these three-dimensional videos of sites so that people can watch it worldwide. Also as a marketing stunt, so I don't know if that's been done here, but that's just the type of technology available that people can use. So a recommendation just from my side, like I say, I'm a local inhabitant here of Parys, and I would just like to see this place managed properly, a decision on how to manage it, and decide on the way forward and establish management authorities. I think that's the biggest thing when you want to sit people around a table and say you manage this thing jointly. It is so difficult because you have to have representation from all types of industries there. And it's much bigger than us. It's much bigger than us, so I think we must always keep that in mind. And it's important to get a marketing plan for the whole site as a whole, not for little pieces. One by one. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for joining us. We will not take questions now, Kobus. Yeah, you may have it. Kobus, Vahabiki, yeah, the MEC says we may take questions. Yeah, it was a very interesting presentation. Let me quickly accept the questions. Just show me by lifting up of your hand if you have any question. How na le potso o ka botsa le ka Setswana o ka bua Sesotho hantle fela motho e motle se o amohelehile le wena me nga no balabula na Xichangani ni ngamba na Tshivenda nikhulume ngeSizulu si grand ngayo lento total rishapo ka yona nka tsamtha le yona. Just pick up your hand. Let me see if I have some questions from the floor. Malosaba, I see you. We do have some roving mics here, tops, if you can assist quickly. Yeah, that side, Malosaba. Then I see you, my brother, there. Is your hand up at the back there? Near. Die hand is nie op nie. Ons sal mevrou se hand vat, maar ons begin daarso. From the back, Malosaba. Yeah, pick up your hand again, Malosaba, that he may see you. Yes. Then my brother, pick up your hand. Then Mabukhami will be the third. Kobus, yeah, just stand by. Let's take the questions like that. From there, take there. Then from there, take it here. Then we will take answers from the three. Kobus.
Thank you very much. MC. It's not really a question. It's something that you have highlighted that you don't see a lot of movement in connection with the heritage site, where you see that there could be some school or some other things that can happen on site to enhance and also to be informative of other to people around the country and around the world, like other countries that are doing. If you can just elaborate on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. As I said, I'm not a specialist in these things. Just had the privilege of visiting a lot of sites around the world, and what I've seen is a lot more activity. Firstly, I think the information center is important. A centralized information center where you can display what happened here to people, from young to old, by form of presentation, by exhibits, posters, that type of thing. A lot of work was done, I think, by Wits University for an information center outside Vredefort. I don't know what happened to that information. A lot of work was done, helicopter flights taking panoramic views and so on. So a lot of that information, that material might still be available. But I think an information center is the most important, and from there, then little guided tours and everything else can come. But as far as the science is concerned, you need to get these groups of people, youngsters or whoever, in a building. Whether you use existing structures like this, for example, I don't know. But, places where you can actually get people involved to come and see and explain to them. Because if you go out in the field, you'll see this afternoon if we go out, or even if you take a drive around here, it's very difficult. It's such a big structure that you won't see much. So a lot of people would ask around town and say, listen, who can take us out? And that also, there's not people, I believe even that can do that at the moment. So people, and if you do a self-drive tour, there's not a proper map available with points that show you where you can stop and that give you an explanation. And believe me, if you just travel through here and you don't have background, you won't see anything. It'll just be another nice drive in the bush. So I think the information center is the most important. Did that answer your question? Thank you.
Okay. My name is Leslie from NWT Newspapers. I just want to find you from Govers, because you raised this issue about everything that you just spoke about, but issue of climate change. How did it affect the environment? As you say, I don't know, I think you are waiting to be specific. Who are you in terms of the profession? But climate change, how does it affect the environment? How does government help you guys in making sure that we make sure that the environment is safe? And the second question will be the issue of, I just want to find out about you look at our creators. I want to give you to give me more pictures on that, what you mean about the issues that, the creators in Morocco and Slahole. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's Twain, the crater, that I was referring to outside Pretoria. A small crater, they had an information center there, but I believe it was burnt down last time I heard, years ago. And it's a nice center to visit. One can actually, for school groups, it's ideal because you can go and stand on the rim of a 1-2 kilometer size diameter crater, and just to explain to people how it formed is not too difficult. There's also interesting things that because of the rock type, also it's a specific type of granite there. You've got accumulation of salts, and it was also known as the salt pans of Pretoria because of this accumulation of salt where the water evaporates and the salt concentrate. So there's a lot of interesting things around all of these sites that you can show people and tell people about. So that's Twain crater. Your first question regarding global warming, I think, it's so complicated, but I would say it actually helped us to expose this structure. If you want to put in context what global warming did for the Vredefort structure. There was a lot of different times where there were a lot of erosion and weathering that took away surface rocks here. And as I mentioned, if you go to Europe and those parts of the world, you'll find young sediment, sands and muds and soil. You won't find rocks. South Africa is actually quite barren, quite